In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to easily create the cloud infrastructure needed to access OpenAI deployments through private endpoints using Switchblade. The first step is we need to create our virtual network. I won't go into the specifics of how to do everything in this tutorial, as that information can be found on our website or by reaching out to us directly at sales@boundless.software. Here in this YAML file, I've specified that I want to create a virtual network, one subnet, and one security group. If we were to go down to our terminal and apply the YAML file, you'll see that our resources have begun to create. Now that our resources have finished creating, we can verify their creation in the Azure portal. Back in our code editor, you can see we have another YAML file for our OpenAI resources, in which we will create one deployment and everything will only be accessible through private endpoint. Alright, now that those resources have finished creating as well, we can verify their creation in the Azure portal. Back in the terminal, we can actually check the status of our created resources through the Kubernetes object itself. If we were to get our virtual network object, you will see the status of all of our created resources. And in a new terminal, if we were to get the OpenAI object, you would see the status of those resources as well. I've now created a virtual machine that I will use to showcase the connectivity to our OpenAI endpoint. Here in the virtual machine, I have a Python script set up to connect us to our OpenAI deployment. Using the key that we got from our OpenAI status object, if I run the script and give it a sample prompt, you'll see that we don't have access to it because we have yet to create our private endpoint. Back in our code editor for one final time, you can see that I've added the private endpoint to our OpenAI YAML file. If we apply the modified file, you'll see that our private endpoint has begun to create. Now we can see the private endpoint and its custom DNS zone have been created and configured, and we can verify that through the Kubernetes object as well. We can also see that that change is reflected in the Azure portal. And now, back in the virtual machine, if I were to try the same prompt, you'll see that now we have access.